Q&A here at Juku Christi. I want to welcome you to this new class that we have up and running here as a free weekly live event where we can get together and improve business English and professional communication. This is a course really designed for people who speak English as a second language, who are wanting to improve their professional communications and up their business English skills. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm hoping to create a place here where people feel really comfortable, where they can ask questions and I can provide the answers, because sometimes when we are learning professional communication, when we are in a professional situation with a boss or a client, if we don't understand what's going on, it's difficult at the time to ask the question. So I hope you will come and share your questions here, and hopefully everyone can kind of learn a little bit more about some of the things that might be challenging when we are communicating in business English. The way it works, I have a website. Oh, by the way, I've also said this before, I'm learning how to do the live events. I'm not totally sure how it all works, and I'm trying to learn how to be able to put words on the screen, and I haven't quite got there yet. I'm getting there. So I still have my little papers that I will share with you. I want to make sure people can get in touch with me if you want to. You can find out more information on my website. So my online school is called Juku Christi, and my website is jukuchristi.com. The way that this class will work, I hope that you will send in questions ahead of time. Send it in at an email to questions@jukuchristi.com. And that way I can kind of go through and make sure that things are what I need and that I can have the right answer available. You can also get a hold of me directly at Christy@jukuchristi.com. So I think with all of that information, you'll definitely be able to find me. And I would love it if you could send in questions. Thanks to everyone who's already been sending in messages and questions. This week, my question of the week is a little bit different. Last week, if you remember, I had an American friend send in a message of encouragement to everyone who is trying to learn how to speak English. She thinks that having a business English event like this where anybody can come in and join and improve their business English skills is a great idea. She works with people who come from different places. This week, I actually got another question that I think I want to start with this because I think it's kind of a nice foundation question. I got a question from a man I know in Chicago, professional businessman who had heard about what I was doing. And he was a little bit confused. His question to me was, Christy, what is business English? I mean, how is business English different from just English? I think for all of us who've learned other languages, so I speak Japanese and French, we understand that you start to learn a language like you are learning English. We try and get pretty good. We try and get the vocabulary and the basic understanding of how it works. I think what my friend was kind of going for, I can see what he means. Business English really is just English. I mean, it's English at a high level. But it's not quite that simple. And I think that's what I'd like to talk about today, of what is business English. So first of all, I would like to throw the question out to you because I would like to understand, what is business English to you? What do you think of if you're going to take a business English class, or if someone says you need to have better business English? What does that mean to you as someone who is learning English? For me, thinking about it for this class, I've come up with kind of a 3-tiered answer. I think that on the forefront, hold on, I want to make sure I say this clearly. I think I would take business English and sort of break it down into kind of 3 different pieces that I would look at as I was learning business English. I think this actually could be useful even if you speak English as a native speaker. So in business English, the first category that I would think of, and it's the easiest one and the one you probably think of as business English, and that is the vocabulary, the actual words and phrases that are specific to a business situation or professional work situation. Those types of specific words and phrases can be very industry specific, meaning if you're a lawyer, there's particular words you need to know. If you're a doctor, there's particular words you'll know. If you're working in, I don't know, in sales and you're working with clients, there's certain phrases that would come in that would be a little bit different depending on which industry you work in. And I'm sure we're going to cover a lot of this as time goes by. But I think one important branch of business English is just what we would say the nuts and bolts, like the pieces that make it up. Like if you have a Lego house and all the little pieces of Legos, you have vocabulary words and phrases that are important to know and maybe are important to understand when is the right time to use them. So that's one side of business English that I think everyone probably thinks of first. The second division, and something that, I think once you get some of the vocabulary and you start understanding that, I think the next thing to consider, and something that I think is very important when you're communicating in a professional setting, is really just the level of how to be polite, how to communicate in a polite style, in the right or appropriate style for your situation. And that could be tricky because different cultures have different etiquette, different ideas of what is polite. I think you will find as we go through these classes and work together, I think it's very important to be able to speak in a very polite and diplomatic way. So if you're speaking with coworkers or your boss or your client, or if you're speaking with a supplier that you've ordered some materials from, having that right type of diplomatic politesse, the right way of saying something. And I think that is a very important part of business English. So that would come into play if you're a native English speaker or if you are a learning English as a second language speaker. These are important things to consider. And as someone who's learning English as a second language, that just becomes an extra level of work to understand what is polite, the right phrases, the right timing to say things. So we will be going more into that. It's something I really enjoy. So I think being able to be polite is very important, and it can be very useful in getting through situations when you're in a professional setting. The third part of this, of what is business English, how is business English different from just English? And this part, I think, is something you need to consider moving forward, and it is how to use language to influence people or influence a situation. So it's not just being polite, it's not just being nice, but if you want to influence a situation or a person, if you're negotiating a price, or if you are trying to calm someone down who might be angry, or if you are trying to get out of trouble, or if you're trying to get a promotion, I think that there's ways to say things that can turn a conversation in your favor, or that can lead a conversation in the direction that you want it to go in. I think that's important when you're negotiating. That's important to be able to pay attention So I would think in this section of being able to influence with your language, I will add in that that's not just what's going out. You also need to be able to see what other people are doing, hear what they're saying, and understand what maybe they're trying to say with their language. And I think this is very fascinating. So I think when you are, I find that this all could go into being just English, but when you're in a business setting or a professional setting, I think that you can focus in on particular words and phrases that are important. You have to understand what they are so that you don't get lost when other people use them. I think you need to consider being even more polite than you would, say, just at home. So not business English, just English. If you're speaking with friends and family, of course, that's more relaxed. And I think in a business setting, there is a way of raising your language so it is more polite. Because I lived in Japan and speak Japanese, and now I live in France and I speak French, if there's anybody out there that knows anything about those two languages, there is a very clear difference if you are speaking to an equal, or if you are speaking to someone above you, or if you are speaking to someone below you, at least in Japanese. So Japanese, I think that's quite clear. You know, there's a different way of speaking to different levels of people. In French, there is a slight difference if you say, if you're going to be talking to someone who's above you, who maybe you don't know very well, or someone who's friendly and casual. There's sort of a different way of using words and a different way of conjugating verbs. So for those people, it's probably very easy to imagine that there's sort of a different style of speaking when you need to be more polite. And I think that that's just something to keep in mind while learning business English. Like, what are you learning? What is business English? And I think it is these words, the ability to be polite and understand the other person, what's going on. And then the more interesting and maybe powerful part of business English, I would say, would come over here with the being influential, to influence a situation or a negotiation or something that's going on, to be able to guide a conversation in a direction that you want it to go. And there are particular ways of doing that that I think can be learned. You can learn how to do this. So to my friend off in Chicago, who was a little bit baffled and thought, what is business English, Christy? You know, what's the difference? I think if we look at those three things, that gives us a really good start at trying to understand what is business English. I would really like for you to tell me what you think business English is. I think each person has their own idea. So if you could think about it, I would love it if you would either put a comment here under the video or head over to my website and leave a comment under the blog. Each episode here at YouTube has a blog post linked to it at my website where people can continue putting comments and sharing what they think about whatever question of the day it is. And of course, you can send me an email at christy@jukuchristi.com. What is business English? What's the difference? What do you want to learn? If you are taking a course of business English, what are you hoping will be the thing that you learn and that you can take away from the class? Here at our weekly event, it is a Q&A, meaning it is a question and answer. You submit the question. I will do my best to supply the answer. And that way we can share our curiosities and confusions about learning English and applying it to a professional setting. But I would really like to know, just in general, as I move forward, because I am a native English speaker, I would really like to know, what is business English to you? Send me in a message. I will appreciate it. So listen, this is our live event. It is every Monday, 10 p.m. in Japan, 3 p.m. in France, and it is 9 a.m. in New York City. So I hope that you will join in every week and catch us catch me either live, join us here, or if you don't have time at that point, jump in and catch the video on my YouTube channel, Juku Christie. Remember, Juku Christie, it is your favorite place to practice English. I look forward to joining you here in this community where we can up our business English skills together. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.